Welcome to episode 5 of the CAP, the Culture and Arts Podcast. Very excited to be here for episode 5. We're just chugging right along. To my right, I have, as always, David Merle.
Good morning.
And to my left, as always, is Mr. Jason Merle.
Hello.
How you guys, how was the week?
I had a good week, but on my way into Rui Studios here today, I'm sure you've had something like this occur. I pull up to a stop sign, and I wave the next person on, but they waved me on at the same time. And And then we do this dance on who goes first.
Oh, yeah.
So I had one of those interesting moments, and then I had to kind of like just protest and go, okay, I'm just sitting here until this person goes. I'm not motioning. I'm not adding to the confusion. And so I had one of those moments on my way in today.
Yeah. Jason, how about you? How was your week?
Good week.
Good week?
Yeah.
That's all, man.
A few words.
Man, a few words.
Yeah.
So
this week we've got a few. It was kind of a slow news week as far as the zany things that we sometimes like to discuss, but there were a few things that kind of stood out. And one of the reasons that I think that the news is so dry this week is because everybody's talking about the Olympics. And I don't want to get too heavy into that, but I think that's what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, sure. We wrapped up the Super Bowl and all that comes with the media after that, and now we're heading to the Olympics. I actually thought there was kind of a lot going on. Maybe in terms of zany, maybe not.
I think the only reason people are really talking about the Olympics is because people like to say Sochi.
Sochi.
It's kind of a fun word to say,
yeah.
Sochi. I think that's the reason probably everybody's talking about it. But speaking of odd and extraordinary things, how about we jump into our first story?
Let's do it.
So, apparently, do you guys remember a couple years ago when there was that story about a guy down in Miami who was smoking bath salts? And there might even have been like 2 cases of this where somebody was smoking bath salts and they became like human zombies.
Yes.
Right.
And they were trying to eat people alive. Well, there was a story in Palm Beach County in Florida, Delray Beach, where a naked man with superhuman strength was shot to death after assaulting a former police officer and biting part of a teenager's face off. Now, the teenager survived. Sad for the police officer, but at the same time, I think that the most crazy part about this story is 2 things. Naked man, superhuman strength, and then, I guess 3 things, because you have to add the cannibal factor.
I would love to have one day my name in the paper that has the word superhuman strength in it.
Yes.
But this man so disappointed me because it also includes naked and some other and the cannibalism.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the opener and he just failed miserably. Superhuman strength you can't beat, minus maybe the smoking bath salts.
I want to give the cops some credit for bringing this guy down, because I'm telling you, going after somebody eating the face is not that strange, but after watching Borat, I will never go after a naked man.
Oh, no.
That was the funniest scene in Borat, and I missed it. I stepped out to go to the bathroom, and I came back in, and there's these naked men wrestling. I was like, what is going on in this movie? What did I just miss?
That movie went a place that very few movies go. I'm not a big rated R movie kind of watcher, but I watched Borat, and I seen that naked man wrestling scene. You're just like, where is this going?
Where is it
there
going?
was no limits to that movie.
And
no
it was
limits.
like everything aesthetically pleasing was off. It was like, not only are they naked, they're overweight, they're extremely hairy. You know what I mean?
Opening the show with Borat today.
Bad. You like? Okay.
Yeah.
You like the naked wrestling scene? This is wonderful.
There was no superhuman strength or cannibalism there, but man, Borat.
Yeah, maybe that was a little bit cleaner, though. They said that this guy was obviously delirious on something.
No kidding.
And he was a huge guy, and he took a fighting stance, and they were trying to get him on the ground, and he just charged at them, and the taser did not even affect him.
Well,
It said they had to shoot him 3 times, like once in the chest and twice in the leg.
It's like this was the juggernaut that they were trying to take down.
In his head, he's probably thinking, Hulk smash!
no kidding. This is nutty. But they don't know what the guy's on.
I just want to point out, I want to be the guy in the room, that we're talking about a naked man, and David just said that was nutty.
Oh, come on now. Come on now. Come on now.
There's really not much more of a story than that. But I figured with The Walking Dead coming back from its hiatus on Sunday night, to highlight the fact that there are human zombies walking around and trying to eat people alive is just insane. And I think it's something noteworthy.
The trend's gone too far. This zombie interest, the guy's weight. What do you think he's on? I've never. This is crazy. This kind of stuff happening? This was not the bath salt article, though. Is that correct?
This is not the bath salt, but they said that that he's definitely delirious on something. I would have to go ahead and assume, based on prior stories, that maybe it was bath salts, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like new drugs are popping up every day.
Are people just smoking anything in their house?
I think so.
I mean, give me a little bit of deodorant, mix that with some Comet from the underneath the sink, and then just smoke anything anymore.
Yeah.
I read it online a while ago that when Tupac died, he was cremated and his crew smoked him.
What?
They smoked him?
That's what I read.
They smoked Tupac?
That seems really strange to me. But
Wow.
Wow. Well, I guess that's how they perform California Love. This is love. They pour some out for their homies, and then they smoke their homies.
You know what? That's probably true. I believe that. I believe that Tupac was smoked.
You believe that he was smoked?
I do. I just think that there's something to that culture, the gangster culture, that would just think that's cool. Like, oh, yeah.
Thug life?
Yeah. So,
Well,
I'm not thug life.
Yeah, I have some news for both of you. If either of you ever die, I will not be smoking your ashes.
You know what? I get that.
Sorry.
And
I actually take comfort in that. So.
And I had a different thought this week, and I'm sure you know where I'm going. I posted on my Facebook status. But if either one of you get killed by a Russian boxer, in Sochi or not, if it requires me to train outside in anything remotely close to like the weather we've having now, I will not avenge your death. I apologize now.
You will not avenge our death.
I will not avenge your death in the ring if it requires me to train in anything remotely close to what we... And, I'm not going to Sochi and doing it.
I'm okay with that. I would just say if I'm ever in a boxing match with a Russian, as soon as he gets a shot in, you throw in that towel.
No,
for me.
no, I'm not.
Don't just sit there and watch him club me to death.
Now, is it just the Russian or anybody? I mean, how would you enter into a boxing match? Because, are you a game for boxing other people? Or are you going to... Oh, wait, celebrity boxing. Zimmerman wants to box DMX.
Yeah.
Now, that is crazy. Was there bath salts involved in that decision?
Probably. I think it also has a lot to do with the fact that DMX always wears hoodies.
Right. Now, if I would box superhuman strength naked man with clothes on.
With clothes on.
Yeah, I would.
You wouldn't box naked superhuman strength
no,
man.
I would not be naked, and I don't want him naked. Before I box anyone, they must at least have a towel on.
Sumo loincloth.
Right.
The adult cloth diaper.
So, is celebrity boxing needed?
I think that they had it at one time, didn't they?
They did, and it comes back every now and then, and you'll get celebrities challenging each other. I wouldn't mind celebrity boxing.
Okay, if you could challenge anyone, who would it be? David?
Carson Daly.
Daly.
Yeah.
All right, Jason?
I've always wanted to take a swing at Tom Brady. I mean, I know he'd kick my ass.
Holy cow, Tom Brady! I'm not boxing no one near professional athletes.
He's just ended so many of my Colts seasons in a sour way that it would be worth the beating he gave me just to say I took a swing at him.
No kidding. Now, how many guys do you think we could get in the ring before we got a chance with Tom Brady? Do all three of us need to get in there? Do we need 4 or 5? I mean, how many people would this take?
Well, I was thinking more of like a boxer versus wrestler style match where he can only use his fist, but I can do anything I want.
Yeah, I still don't have a chance.
So steel chair is valid?
Oh, of course.
Wow, I still don't see I have a chance against Tom Brady. Joe, who do you fight in celebrity boxing?
There's probably a few of them out there. Of course, the first one that comes into my head is Justin Bieber.
Oh, now I would have a chance against Justin Bieber. I promise you that.
Oh, I would have a chance. Like he would be gone.
I got to give
Justin
you some credit.
Bieber
That's a good pick because not only would you win, but people would be cheering you on.
Oh yeah, everybody in the world.
I mean, it wouldn't be like the Rocky chant. It'd be like Ruiz. It'd be nuts. That crowd would be sellout tickets.
Yeah, he would. It would be my way of deporting him if the White House wouldn't do it. Like we talked about last week, I think that instead of Adrian, I would be in that position afterwards to be like, America, I did it.
I can change. You can change. Everybody can change. So,
David, one of the things you wanted to talk about this week, there was this big creationism debate. Creationism versus, what would you call it, like evolution?
That kind of was the premise. It was kind of evolution, Big Bang versus creationism. The actual question of the debate was, is Ken Ham's model of creationism a viable science theory to be put in school textbooks? It was kind of a long, multi-syllable sentence there. And so they kind of debated back and forth with that. Now, the actual debate, I think there's a lot of reasons why that's a cultural issue, and we don't have to get into, today about, creation and because I'm just not.
Well, would you do me a favor real quick, because
sure.
I only got to watch half of the debate. So could you give like the Cliff's Note version of creationism, Ken Ham style,
right,
versus what Bill Nye was talking about?
Now Ken Ham is a strict Bible literalist, so he believes that that God made the earth and the universe 6,000 years ago in 24-hour periods, no evolution. I don't believe even a Big Bang. I mean, it is. So he
pretty much exactly as Genesis would say it is.
Well, see, I'm going to take issue with how you word that,
okay.
Because I don't think it's how necessarily Genesis worded it. I think it's that there's been some opinions thrust on the book of Genesis, and a more they've came up with a more literal reading of the scripture. One thing that I think you got to keep in mind is scripturally, and I won't go on this bunny trail forever, is there's a literal way to take something, and then there's a natural way to take something. And so if you ask me if I take the Bible literally, I'd probably say, well, no, I take the Bible more naturally. Like, for instance, Jesus used allegories like he's a door, he's light. He's not literally speaking that he's a door, he's light. He's talking symbolically, so there was a natural way to understand that.
Sure.
And I think Genesis has a similar understanding. There's a natural way to understand that. And when you try to approach it from a scientific textbook, see, I guess I'm giving my opinion. I wasn't in the debate. But I think so Bill Nye, his approach was that he came at it from a very scientific method, and he was kind of critical of any use of Scripture. I mean, he later did give a nod. He said, well, hey, there's billions of religious people out in the world that don't share your approach to creationism and value the Bible and church and those things. And I think really, Ken Ham and Bill Nye are the only two guys that are on opposite ends of this. It seems like to me most people fall in a little bit of gray. Am I wrong about that? And where's my present company on this?
I was actually trying to find an article to kind of study up on this because I didn't watch the debate. And I was trying to find a non-biased one, and apparently that doesn't exist. I did find one that talked about why the debate was a good idea, and it just turned out it was so people can see how kooky the creationists are. But there was a point in there that basically neither one of these guys was the best person to represent their argument.
Okay.
Because creationists don't represent all Christians, and Ken Ham doesn't represent all creationists.
Right.
And there's, and not knocking Bill Nye, because he's, he knows science, but a lot of people are saying they'd rather just see DeGrasse Tyson. I can't remember his full name. But there's better people in the science community to even represent that aspect.
Now you say that, and I really was hoping that Superhuman Strength Naked Guy was going to be present for the debate. I think that there was room for a podium for him. I
might have listened on the radio, but I certainly wouldn't have watched.
Right, definitely. No, anyway, but you say that. But Bill Nye actually, I'm a creationist guy. I believe that. And I think my disappointing part with this was, since we're actually kind of having a scientific debate, and I'm comfortable with his conviction about biblical beliefs and things, but where I struggle is he didn't present enough scientific information for the theories that he espouses. And so it really came across that Bill Nye took the debate home. That Bill Nye won the debate. That would be my thing. Even though I think Bill Nye's wrong on some things like creation and the flood and some of those things, I think that Ken Ham...
I would generally think that this kind of debate can't actually be won. I think that these disagreements will continue to be had, and everybody's going to kind of believe what they want to believe, and putting this kind of grand thing together is going to be interesting to the people who believe on one side or the other, but factions from within those two groups are going to continue to say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And then anybody that's an outlier of either of those two viewpoints are going to think the whole thing's a sham, too.
Yeah, you address a real important issue, because here we are in 2014, and we are still talking about this issue. And I have no issue with that. I want the Bible to be spoke about in culture. I want to be able to speak openly about Judeo-Christian values or values from their faith. But I also want science to be a universe that is discussed and affects medicine and technology and everything. And I think that these debates are certainly handy for culture, and I love that we just haven't moved and dismissed one side or the other. And I won't. But the other point I would like to believe, the thing that I think is interesting, and maybe you guys have seen these kind of things before, but this was broadcast on the internet live now, and it was all over the place. Most of my friends had either seen it in part or in its entirety, and this was strictly promoted and broadcast online. And I just found that, what's the future for broadcast media when the internet is, getting some things out there in culture that a lot of people are talking about, and it wasn't on one national network.
Now, the internet is great for presenting a voice to those who are kind of voiceless otherwise. I know that politically in the 2012 presidential cycle, you never got to see the Libertarian Party candidate, the Green Party candidate, the Constitution Party candidate, and all these other third-party candidates inside of one of the Mitt Romney-Barack Obama debates. But there's an organization called Free and Equal that put together a debate that was between the third-party candidates, and it was actually hosted by Larry King.
Oh, wow.
And it was only broadcasted online, but it gave people who, wanted to see a more honest conversation than what they were getting with the talking points in the national debates. It gave them an opportunity to see that. And I think that kind of thing is great for taking a jab at what's, business as usual or what's establishment in any, not just politics, but in anything, whether it be a religious conversation or a conversation like the ones that we have every week. The internet is a forum for everybody.
What do you think Larry King would look like smoking bath salts?
I think he would pretty much look like Larry King.
Well, I've seen different estimates on how many people watch the debate online. I've seen ranging from 500,000 up to 1 million, which is really not that big when you look at how many people watch Gangnam Style online.
That's true. That's
right.
true.
No, but where does it compare to broadcast media? On your average show, Big Brother or something that someone's watching?
I think that would be canceled after one episode. If that's all it got.
All right, but it seems to... okay, but I thought this was pretty... It seemed to be all over the media. It seemed to be huge, but maybe
it seems significant for a live broadcast on the internet.
Okay.
I just think it's interesting that Bill Nye is making his rounds now. Because, when I was a kid, Bill Nye, the science guy, and he just disappeared after a while. And then and now he was on The Big Bang Theory a couple times.
Oh, he's becoming a cultural icon.
Yeah, and now he's had this debate. So he seems to be a little bit of all over the place now, and he's becoming a pop culture
Now,
thing.
see, when I was a kid, we had a guy named Bozo the Clown, and he's not...
Talk about Bozo, that's fine.
He passed away, didn't he, though? So he can't make his rounds.
No, he
Man,
can't.
all the guys passed away. We had a guy, Indiana legend, Happy the Hobo. He's since passed away. I would have preferred Happy the Hobo make his rounds on Big Bang Theory and debate Ken Ham. That's what I would like to see. Happy the Hobo could do some amazing stuff.
Do you think he would have done the evolution argument well?
I don't know, but he would have, he could have balanced a milk jug on his chin or stood on one hand or some of the tricks he busted out. Only Indiana Hoosiers above 30 are going to get this reference.
So probably one specifically that picked up Fort Wayne channel.
No, that show was all over the place, but it was... So the interesting thing about this is that there's a lot of people out there discussing the creation debate, and Pat Robertson chimed in. Now, Pat Robertson has a reputation for saying some crazy things. And now, if this gives you an idea of perhaps how poorly Ken Ham did in the debate, is Pat Robertson came out and said, basically, Ken Ham, you need to be quiet. You need to keep your opinions.
He told him to shut up, didn't he?
I believe that's the word he used.
Yeah.
You need to shut up and quit representing us. And then Pat Robertson goes on to talk about fossil fuels and some other things, building a case against
carbon dating.
And carbon it's like, wait a minute, where did all of a sudden rational Pat Robertson come from?
Yeah, I've never seen rational. It's like when a person has dementia. No offense to anybody who's had to suffer through that, but there are periods of time where they come out, and they can actually see things as they actually are. And I think that's what happened to Pat Robertson.
He came out of his and I hate to. I'm the guy that hates knocking on Christian ministers, but this guy has developed a reputation for saying crazy things, almost like he's been smoking bath salts.
Oh yeah,
running the streets naked. Superhuman strength.
I don't want to think about Pat Robertson running down the streets naked smoking bath salts, but let's take a look at some of the crazy things that Pat Robertson has said throughout the history of the 700 Club and then his ministry.
Right. Now, I think one of the interesting things he said is the earthquake punished Haitians for overthrowing slavery.
Holy cow.
Now, here's the thing. I've said some stupid things in my lifetime. Probably said some stupid things on the show already.
Yeah.
And amen, Joe. But so you sit there and you've dug yourself in a conversational grave, and you have to dig yourself out, or maybe you're defending a point that just can't be defended. I want to know the communication breakdown that happened and what he was meaning when he says a specific earthquake was meant to punish Haitians for overthrowing slavery. And what rational button was he think, what group was he catering to saying that?
I don't know. I'm not really sure of his rationale, but it's just one of those absurd, big statements, bold claims that people tend to make when they're nuts. Like I could say, well, 9/11 occurred because of the coming of Justin Bieber. Like that was just punishment for what they were about to do, giving him a record deal.
And maybe we need to get out there and say some irrational things and get some media attention.
Just to put it in perspective, though, how long Pat Robertson's been saying crazy things. When he ran for president back in '88, Saturday Night.
You voted for him, right?
I wasn't old enough to vote. Saturday Night Live did a skit where he was taking part in a debate, and Al Franken was playing Pat Robertson, and he made a joke, as part of his impassioned speech, that Hitler's brain was being kept alive in a jar somewhere in Brazil.
Wait, he really ran for president?
Yeah, he ran.
You didn't know? Yeah,
I didn't know this.
Real deal. He ran for president.
Pat Robertson ran for president.
Now, he didn't get the nomination. That was the year that George H.W. Bush, am I correct in that?
Yes, yeah.
And so...
What party did he run for?
Republican.
Oh, of course. Okay.
And,
so I could just imagine him during his State of the Union address, like, my fellow Americans, men with rebellious wives should live where wife beating is legal.
Right, and this is,
and that's actually a thing he said.
Yes, Joe mentions that. He actually, I guess, said men with rebellious wives should live where wife beating is legal. The problem is this influx of men would probably have no women in that community.
No.
And would there be plenty of bath salt smoking and naked around running in that community?
Would probably be, you'd walk around that community and see people with half-eaten faces.
Again,
naked men wrestling in the streets.
What is the communication breakdown? He's apparently trying to cater to the abusive male audience. I mean, is that who watches this?
Well, that's your core demographic.
I mean, and now here's the thing: I've not watched the 700 Club in years. Now, and what I'd like to know is is it mostly rational? And then he brings out one of those things, and then are the guys on the show like, oh, ho, 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 yeah, the funny joke there, Pat? Where's that go?
All I remember about 700 Club is that, is it his wife that he
No,
works
I don't
with?
think so. I think it's actually a former Miss USA, though.
Okay, so this woman, asks him questions that callers or people who write in are asking him, right? Yeah. And I remember it mostly being about, the book of Revelation and the end times and all this stuff. That's the things that I remember seeing most on that show.
I don't remember that. I'm sure it's true. I remember that they would, show testimonies about people coming to the Lord and some encouraging things,
I used to catch the tail end of it because it was on...
And when you mean tail end, you mean from start to finish? Right?
I mean the last 3 minutes.
Okay.
Because it was on ABC Family right before they would show the reruns of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Which is,
right.
obviously what I'm trying to watch. Right. But one question that somebody emailed him was, my mother's been getting into witchcraft. Should I be concerned? It's like, well, I'm pretty sure Pat Robertson's going to tell you yes.
You should be concerned.
Yeah, well, Pat Robertson did not. That's actually a rational comment. I think that you should be concerned with people into witchcraft. I mean,
it just seemed like an odd question to ask Pat Robertson, though.
Yes.
Yeah, but you never know where he's going to go, because he might respond with, well, God punishes people for having too much education. Pat Robertson's, that's a phrase that he was responsible for saying. Yeah,
I would like the founder of Regent University.
No, maybe Pat Robertson wants people, punished by God, and that's his plan.
Yeah, I would like to see someone write in and say, "Dear Pat, is it okay to smoke bath salts?"
Right.
In which case, I think he would say, well, to remain biblical, you want to make sure you're smoking pillars of bath salts.
Oh, no. So,
one of the most absurd things that I saw that he read is abortion is a lesbian conspiracy.
I laughed out loud when I read that one.
I did too.
And was he crazy enough to drop the mic and walk off stage when he said that? Did he think he had a
Pat Robertson, mic drop?
He thought that was the point to end all points.
He thought, you ever been talking to someone and they just say something crazy like that? They don't blink, and I could, is Pat Robertson standing there like, abortion is lesbian conspiracy?
Yeah,
and then
checkmate.
And then you're waiting like. What do you really? Is that a joke?
Are you serious?
Because if there's a group out there that's having a ton of unwanted pregnancies, it's the lesbian community.
Oh no! So, abortion's not really funny, but Pat Robertson seems to have.
He managed to make it that way.
Yeah, he managed to make it funny. Yeah. I mean, it's almost as if he thought that singular statement was going to change everyone's minds, and there would be a constitutional amendment ratified tomorrow that would make sure that abortion was going to be, not even something that's talked about. Abortion would be like the new Lord Voldemort. It would be the thing that nobody will say because of that statement.
Again, who's he catering to in this group? I don't know. Even I'm a pro-life guy, but that just seems so far off the rational radar. You're
somewhere in that community of wife beaters, they're all right. Yeah, that makes total sense. I really agree there.
Where is this community? It's not Sochi, is it? It's not. Okay.
No, it's on private property somewhere within the acreage of the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh no.
But you know what? Pat Robertson is a crazy, crazy guy. Pat, I'm not going to use my tip of the cap to you today, but I definitely can appreciate that you've given us a lot to laugh about.
See, I'm the guy that I want to root for Christian ministers and Christian broadcasters, but sometimes you just it's hard to pull for them when you're saying some wacko things.
Definitely, yeah. When you say something like abortion is a lesbian conspiracy, you can't really go to bat for Pat.
Yeah, I think that only worked in the wife beating crowd. That city there, smoking their bath salts.
So guys, remember last week when we talked about Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez, and then I ended up tipping the cap to Selena Gomez at the end of the show.
I remember that. I was shocked, but hey, yeah.
Because we thought, she's a good girl. I mean, she made a couple mistakes in dating the Biebs, but now she's kind of dropping out of that bad place in her life, and she's a good kid, right?
That's what we thought.
And then this article came across TMZ this week that says Selena Gomez ignored the advice of medical professionals and waltzed out of rehab just 14 days into a 6-week program over the strenuous objection of the rehab staff. And it says that she was basically supposed to go to rehab for alcohol, pot, and prescription Ambien, which apparently she's having issues with. But she left 2 weeks into it to go to the Sundance Film Festival. Now, who knew she was having these kinds of issues? And can I take back a tip of the cap? I mean, is that even possible?
Yeah, we'll give you that. I think you can take it back. Did she walk out of rehab with superhuman strength?
No, and okay. I'm fairly certain, at least according to this article, that she was not nude either.
All right. We probably have less concern with that than we did the guy in Florida, though, right?
That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, it's too bad. We thought that, we were loving on her so much. We're like, oh, she's Miss Independent, and she, and
we gave her some undue props.
What happens to these celebrities? go ahead.
Well, because when I first saw this story, I saw she left rehab after 2 weeks. They didn't really paint the picture that she left against, the advice of the people that were running the facility.
Right.
And I just thought, well, what kind of rehab is a 2-week program? I've never heard of that.
No. Yeah, it's supposed to be a 6-week program, and she left 14 days into it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess she went to go to the Sundance Film Festival and was originally planning to go back, and then just decided, you know what, I've been through the worst of this treatment program, so I'm good. Which I just think that's going to be a huge mistake.
Yeah, do you think her or Justin Bieber
hardest.
Have ever smoked bath salts?
I wouldn't put it past Bieber.
Biebs.
And
I knew he would go Biebs.
But you know what? Then I guess I can't really put it past Selena Gomez either at this point.
Yeah, kind of disappointed. What happens to these celebrities? They make a lot of money. Is there a disproportional amount of celebrities doing drugs, needing rehab, or is it just that it burns up the media?
It's probably that it burns up the media.
So you think there's no more celebrities in this kind of behavior than there are the average Joe?
No, well, I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
It might be a little bit higher, but I think it just draws a lot more attention.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think with the paparazzi and everything always following you around, and do you think there's a lot of added pressure that leads people to find relief in substance abuse?
I would think so.
Could it just be as simple as, the money doesn't, you have the money to do these reckless behaviors, and then you get wrapped up in it.
But I've heard, like Eminem, who struggled with all sorts of addictions, and he said that even though he had the money to go out and buy those things, he never did, because when you're famous and people know that you're into certain vices, people will just walk up and give you stuff for free because of who you are. And, so like Eminem was addicted to pills, and so people would approach him and be like, "Oh, Em, you want to hang out, man? Here, I got these pills for you."
Okay, so people are kind of exploiting their celebrity to kind of, they think, "Oh, I'm the guy that gave Eminem these pills."
Right.
And they want to be in that circle.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, so people are kind of exploiting the celebrities. Not that I feel bad for the celebrities. They're embracing this reckless behavior. Where are the celebrities coming out, though, saying, "Hey, I don't do drugs. I'm not, I'm responsible with my money and time"? I mean, I don't know. Do you think there's the outrage in Hollywood that there should be for this kind of thing, or is it?
I don't think it seems like everybody pretty widely accepts it. I mean, I've read articles about Demi Lovato doing cocaine with the Jonas Brothers.
Oh my goodness! I thought they were good boys.
No, and it was actually right after they broke up. One of the Jonas Brothers came out and was talking about how he had done coke with Demi Lovato and Miley Cyrus in an airport or something like that.
Wow. Are there good boy and good girl celebrities? Are they out there?
I don't know. I mean, even Justin Timberlake, he's a regular pot smoker, and he talks about it. And
oh my!
He seems like a pretty cool dude, otherwise. But he's like, that's just part of life.
So
interesting. I don't know if there are any like true blue, like Punky Brewster celebrities out there.
Right. What about the mom on the middle? What's her name?
The mom on the middle. Do you know?
You know what I'm talking about? She was on Everybody Loves Raymond.
Patricia Heaton.
You don't think she's out there partying with Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber, do you?
Nah.
She's a good girl, right?
I think it's probably just the ones who get the crazy amounts of attention that are really,
All right.
Although, you know what? I don't see Beyonce talking about that stuff.
Right. Okay. I think a good number of them are not going to throw that out there. I mean, they may. Do you get what I'm saying? Like they, maybe they're. Hate to say it, maybe they're smarter about their use. I mean, it's confines to their home or whatever. So who knows?
It's interesting that they're the celebrities who you wouldn't expect to be addicts or experimenting with this stuff are the ones who are. But it'd be funny if the ones who you really expect to be addicts or on some sort of drugs were not. Like, Kristen Stewart's totally sober, like all the time.
No, I've heard, though, like, some of these guys, like, and I'm sure they had their party days and stuff like that, but, like, Motley Crue, for instance, I guess are the shrewdest businessmen you'll ever meet.
Oh, yeah?
So, now, granted, they had their party days. I'm not trying to act like they're good boys and good, but I guess what I'm saying is sometimes you don't get that they're, but they're packaging that, I suppose. They're kind of marketing that sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle for money or whatever. So... now, is that do some of these celebrities like Selena Gomez, is that part of their branding? They trying to get this out there and hey, this is the era I'm in. I got to try to stay relevant and kind of be reckless and stay in the papers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? She can't,
It's possible. I don't think it's excusable, but it's
Oh no,
possible.
it's not. No, I'm not trying to justify it or excuse it. So
yeah, so I don't know. I mean, all I know is that I definitely take back the tip of the cap from last week. I think it's sad that she's just another statistic in the celebrity world, and we've kind of seen where that has taken things.
One more point on this. What I'm frustrated about is society just seems to almost take the, just another celebrity doing drugs, getting busted, going to rehab. We're not as appalled by this stuff as I think we need to be. What do you think? You know what I'm saying? We need to... It seems like there would have been a day where we just would have been appalled by the behaviors of the Justin Biebers and the Selena Gomez's. And I don't even as much as this burns up the paper, I don't think we're as appalled as we should be.
Yeah, maybe that's true. We become desensitized to it. We like to have kind of someone to wear the scarlet letter and, someone to point at and tease and make fun of and whatever.
Yeah,
every year there's somebody.
She'll put out an album. She'll put out, Wizards of Waverly Place 2 or something, however that works. And people will buy it and she'll make a boatload of money. And I just don't know if that should be the case. It's one thing to show a little bit of grace.
You think people should boycott celebrities who they disagree with on a personal level? I
think that we have to be careful when we're buying our children products of people that they admire who make the papers for using drugs. I think that that's a free market thing that we can do.
That's true. That's true. If it's worth it to you. If it's worth it to you. I mean, like Justin Timberlake, like I said, he said that he's an admitted, marijuana user.
Which breaks my heart, because you got to love Justin Timberlake.
I'd buy his albums and support his habit all day long, as long as it wasn't anything too crazy.
Right, and I suppose... I hate to be, technical. I think marijuana is a little bit different than some of the reckless behaviors you might engage in on some of these other drugs.
If Justin Timberlake can make the 2020 experiment, stoned, just imagine what he could do when he's sober.
Yeah.
The 2020 experiment, amazing album.
Yes.
Amazing album.
Experience. 2020 experience.
Okay. What I call it?
Experiment.
We
were talking about drugs, so David was talking about experimenting.
Right.
But,
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, you know me, I put marijuana on the same level as, I do alcohol. And anybody who's drinking, vodka tonic or something and they put out an album, I'm not even going to put them on my radar.
I got you. I'm just a real big believer in, I want to be responsible. I want to send the right message to kids. And so I think as a parent, we just got to be guarded about these reckless behaviors that come out in the media. And, I suppose you can have a conversation at one age. As your kid gets older, you can say, hey, listen, just because we enjoy a person's art doesn't mean that we are tolerating everything in their lifestyle or that we want to emulate them, that kind of thing. So, and I think that that's the problem. I think our society doesn't, wants these celebrities to be much more than artists. I think we just let them be their artists. We buy their art, and we don't, we don't ask them what they're wearing or their political opinions or anything. We use them. We buy their art. We use their art. We leave it at that.
I could definitely do without the political opinions of some celebrities.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
Right.
If I could never hear Matt Damon talk about politics again, I'd be happy.
I'm with you.
Or George Clooney.
I have unfollowed so many people on Twitter because they get too political, and a lot of times it's even stuff I agree with. I just don't care what they think.
Now, how is there such a disproportion, and am I right about this, is there a disproportional amount of celebrities that are liberal, or is the culture just antagonistic against any conservative celebrities, or is that just what, am I reading too much conservative propaganda? What's your thoughts on that?
I got to think that celebrities they have a tendency to be liberal, but they always are in favor of some sort of government intervention or government, with giving people money, giving people handouts, giving people welfare and different things. But they're so rich, and I don't see them trying to give anyone money ever. They might donate to a charity here or there, but on the level that they probably could without asking for any government to do anything, they could probably just say, I'm going to do what I can do.
Right.
And that's all there is to it.
They could go buy hundreds of families' health insurance, you know what I'm saying? And they have benefited from the free market like no other. Yeah. And will continue as their art sells. And they're so liberal. It seems so disingenuous,
Man,
so.
we have what has gone on this show?
Well, we are part of the We Are Libertarians network.
That's true. It's almost hard to avoid sometimes, but it's funny because the last few episodes, and we're kind of a comedy show sometimes. There's a lot of funny things that go on the show and random stuff. But like here, we've tackled religion and politics in the last 40 minutes.
No,
and it's
right.
like the people who have listened to the last few episodes they're probably interested, but they're probably going, "Well, that's different than
Yes.
that's different than the Stinky Man."
right. Hey, we opened with bath salt smoking naked guy.
That's
So
true, and Borat. That's Borat.
And Borat. Yeah.
You like this show? You come back next week.
What do you think Borat's opinions of the creation debate are? Do you think he should have showed up in the debate? You think he should have wrestled naked with Ken Ham and Pat Robertson?
People
and Bill
come
Nye?
from monkeys. Very nice.
I was not a fan of Borat, man.
Borat was my favorite Sacha Baron Cohen movie. I couldn't watch Bruno. I didn't like The Dictator. I don't know what else.
You are far more familiar with that man than I ever will be. Borat was like, oh my goodness, this isn't crazy.
I thought my favorite scene was when he approached the garage sale, and that's when he found this Baywatch book that he was obsessed with throughout the movie. And he walks up to the owner of the house who's having this garage sale, and he's thinking that she's a gypsy. And he goes, "I will look upon your treasures, gypsy. Do you understand this?" And the fact that movie was made in a way that like he was playing this character and it was as if it was intentional, like reality TV.
Right.
And they didn't know that he was making a movie. That's hilarious. That is very Andy Kaufman-ish to me.
Which I do love. I'd love to do a project like that myself, but I could never take it to the degree he did. That shock, like. And my question is, were the people was it all staged, or was he really messing with people?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I think it was all. I mean, did you see the thing at the award show? That there was this, like the European version of the Video Music Awards, and he got an award. And the woman up on stage that they were honoring was this old lady in a wheelchair.
Yes.
You saw this?
I saw that.
Right.
And he gets up on stage and he takes her cane from her.
Yeah.
They were tributing. Was it Groucho's Marx?
I think so.
Is that who it was?
Yeah, Groucho Marx.
Okay.
And he walked around with the cane and stuff.
Right.
And so Sacha Baron Cohen asks her for her cane, and she gives it to him. And he starts to walk around like Groucho's Marx on this cane, and he trips and pushes the woman in the wheelchair off of the stage, out of her wheelchair, and every celebrity in the audience has got this panicked expression on their faces, and they're like,
that's
and it was
wild.
all set up.
I
And
love it.
only Sacha Baron Cohen in 2014 would do that. And just like Andy Kaufman would have done that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
He loved to troll people.
Yep. Andy Kaufman was troll before trolling was cool.
Absolutely.
I mean, I loved Andy Kaufman. And so I could get that about the Borat character. Now I'm going to answer my own question. I had asked if some of that was staged, and I actually recall it's not. And I don't want to go on I was a part of a certain denomination that got attacked in the Borat film. I don't know if you recall the church scene.
Yeah.
Okay, I was a part of that group during that time. And
when Borat spoke tongues.
And so that was actually, and I remember, since I was in that group at the time, when the Borat film came out, I mean, there was all kinds of rumbling. And there's no way that particular group would have been a part of a staging. So he played them. And so I think a lot of those, he absolutely was playing those people. So he came to that church, act like he experienced a salvation experience. And I don't want to be in that dude's shoes on Judgment Day if I'm a part of that group or not. That's a little...
But at the
that's
same
wacky,
time,
don't you think?
we look at things through a lens. We watch things on the television as if they're honest. But if you think about it, they allowed a camera to come inside of their church service.
Right, true.
So even though maybe they wouldn't have been involved in staging, they had to know at the very least that this footage could get out to the public.
Yeah, true.
That's we always forget about the camera in the room.
Right. And you got to do things in a way that you just got to live in a way that's open book, above reproach, and can be broadcast on the internet nowadays. And some of us sign up for that, I suppose.
Sure.
And, wow.
Well, before we tip the cap and we wrap the show up, do you guys have anything else that you want to plug or promote or talk about?
Well, I thought were we going to talk about Jay Leno today?
Oh, Jay Leno, yeah, we absolutely need to talk about Jay Leno. My apologies. So Jay Leno just had his last show, and Jimmy Fallon's taking over.
Right. I like Jimmy Fallon, a big fan of Jimmy Fallon, but this is the greatest day in society. This needs to be a holiday that Jay Leno has retired. And what's your thoughts, Jason?
I just lost the article I had, but there was an article on Esquire said, "Farewell to Jay Leno, the Nickelback of late night."
Oh, it's so true.
Okay, explain
I never
that
put
reference.
that together.
Explain that reference.
Well, the article basically went on to say that, the writer never laughed at anything that Jay Leno said. He's not nearly as talented as Letterman or anybody else on a late-night show, but he's still crushing people in the ratings.
Huh, that's interesting.
And you know what was it? I know Dave's a Letterman guy. And Joe's a Fallon guy. I'm partial to Conan.
Okay.
And so I will.
We got the whole gamut.
Yeah. So I will always hate Jay Leno for screwing over Conan.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about his screw job to Letterman.
And
has Jay Leno ever smoked bath salts?
I can't imagine that. But
who has Jay Leno not screwed in the late night scene? I bet there was an after party with Conan and Fallon and Letterman.
Right.
And it was like this inter-network party where they were all wishing him
and
bad luck.
When you see the guys that enter into that world, no one talks about, I grew up wanting to be Jay Leno. They talk about that about Letterman. They talk about Carson. But no one's saying, I just wanted to be Jay Leno when I grow up.
Well,
those guys aren't in admiration of Jay Leno.
The article I found on Esquire actually quoted Dennis Miller as saying, I used to be friends with Jay Leno. I probably won't ever talk to him again, and he probably won't ever talk to me.
Right.
I mean, comedians hate him that passionately.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are saying, the first time Jay Leno retired, he didn't really want to. NBC kind of pushed it on him. It's like, well, who else didn't want to retire? Johnny Carson.
Right. No kidding. The guy screwed out Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, the man, and was on network television for years. And then Letterman has Letterman actually will say that he has more talent than what the present company is saying, but he is saying that dude is so insecure that he even talks about a story about how he's like, Jay Leno will hide in closets and things. He's just incredibly insecure.
Hide in closets?
There's a famous story that he hid in a closet, in an NBC executive's office so he could hear what people were saying about him or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, he's that paranoid.
He wanted to be a fly on the wall.
And in his goodbye, I actually kind of felt bad for the dude, if you can believe that, in his goodbye, because you could kind of, and he even acknowledged that he has writers and producers and cameramen and all these things that make him funnier and present better than he even is. And those comments can be sometimes a little disingenuous, but I think he's kind of your no harm, no foul host of the Tonight Show. I know that sounds awful, but I think the NBC kind of was like, well, we can't lose ground with this, and this is probably the best we got, because by no means is he the funniest comic out there right now.
No.
And he's not even, I hear he's better in stand-up than he was in hosting.
I can see that, but I know the article I found on Esquire, it had a YouTube clip of Letterman talking about the whole riff with Leno and Conan when Leno went back to the Tonight Show.
Right.
Where, Jay was saying, well, don't blame Conan. And Letterman famously said, well, nobody is.
Everybody blames you.
And he talks about, where Jay Leno said, well, a lot of he said, don't blame Conan. A lot of this is on Conan's agents. And Leno said that he didn't have any agents. And Letterman pointed out, well, if Conan's agents are responsible for that end, who's responsible for your end?
Right.
If you don't have any agents.
Sure.
I would love if the first guest on Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show was Conan O'Brien and David Letterman.
They just ripped him up.
I would love it, and they wouldn't even have to say anything. It could kind of be like this huge secret FU to Jay Leno.
They come out and sit on the couches and they just kind of exchange looks for a few minutes.
Oh yeah, and that's actually what Letterman and Conan did. When Conan was allowed to go back on TV, I think he goes back to the Letterman show after the Jay Leno screw job, and they sit there silent for a good 30 seconds to a minute, just doing exactly what you're saying.
And it was great stuff.
Oh yeah, it was great stuff. And Conan was actually, I think, a little more cautious than what David Letterman was, obviously. But I think Conan's a pretty classy fella.
You know what's funny? Conan, I'm almost glad that the Tonight Show incident happened with Conan. He has grown and matured so much as a host in his new role on TBS, and I think that show is much better than anything else that he would have been involved in. It's a really funny show.
No, yeah. I love Conan, but I never thought he was the right choice for the Tonight Show because he's not really mainstream comedy.
Okay.
But I think seeing him on TBS, he's really in a happy place.
Yeah.
He can be himself, and he loves what he's doing. And I think TBS just says, "Hey, go do it, man."
My favorite about Conan's new show is when Paul Rudd comes on. Have you ever seen Paul Rudd on Conan's show? He always brings a clip of his new movie, but it's always a clip from the movie Mac and Me. He'll be like, "All right, we got some footage from Anchorman 2." You know, and they'll go to roll the clip, and it'll be a clip from Mac and Me with the alien falling off of a bridge and like a shopping cart, like shaking his head, and it's so funny because he'll be okay, all right, that wasn't my movie, that was a clip from Mac and Me. You know I've done that before, so I had to do it again. But honestly, here's a clip from Anchorman 2,
all right.
And then they'll replay the Mac and Me clip.
That's great. That's great.
And he never actually gets around to promoting his own movie.
Now, I was pretty hard on Conan when he first came out because I'm a huge Letterman fan, so I was really interested in to see who they were giving late night to, and I was tough on Conan, but Conan has grown as a host, and Conan has grown on me, and Letterman even has admiration for Conan, so I've kind of converted on the Conan thing. But Letterman was kind of the same way. He was kind of a little bit out of mainstream, but he adjusted when he dropped down to the time slot. And
well, I don't know if this is still the case, but I know when Conan first moved over to TBS, his ratings live, compared to all the other late night shows, he was dead last. But when you factored in the people that DVR'd it and watched him later, more people were watching Conan than any of the late night shows. Which, for TBS, that's probably a huge win.
Yeah, definitely.
Should Naked Bath Salt Man get a late night host? Should he get a job?
I think he's a regular segment on Conan.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it would be partially a raw food vegan cooking show because we would just he would attack the audience.
Now, if there's ever a better case against a vegan diet than that, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if you consider man animal, I guess then you couldn't really consider it vegan, but definitely raw food.
Wow.
All right, so I think that Jimmy Fallon is the best of the late night hosts, and here's the thing: he never had to grow into his role. From the moment he started, he was just a natural at it, and he does things for a completely different demographic. He does things more for my generation, I think. So he really hits at the millennial generation with the Saved by the Bell reunions and the different things. He's got the Roots as his backup band. It's like he took all of these facets of pop culture from my lifetime and put that into a late-night show. And that's something that neither Letterman could make a claim to, or Conan, or Leno, or anyone else.
He's kind of a different style host, a little bit than the others. And I think that is tough for me because I think I measure Fallon up against some of the other mold that Johnny Carson has set, that, for instance, Leno and Letterman have definitely embraced. They've gone to more they've made a little more of a Johnny Carson model with their flavor. And Fallon, I think, has said, okay, how can I make this model a little more SNL, a little more YouTube, a little more, you know what I'm saying?
Well, he's definitely done the YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. And so he's definitely went a different direction, I think, and so I'm going to be watching him as a host. I'm kind of curious. I've actually said for a long time that Jimmy Fallon needs to be the guy. I was actually saying he needs to be take the late night show, which he did, and now the Tonight Show. So it'll be interesting. I don't know about the guy taking over late night, Seth Meyers.
He's funny. He's a funny guy. I think he'll do well with it.
He's the only thing on Saturday Night Live this season that's worth watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless they bring in, Justin Timberlake or Tina Fey or somebody that's a veteran of the program.
Sure. Andy Samberg, where's his role in the celebrity universe? I think that dude's funny.
He's got Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, but come on, man.
It's starting to win me over.
Sitcoms are the land of dying celebrities. I mean...
Well, not all of them. Big Bang Theory, obviously, is very successful, and Modern Family does all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there could be bigger and better out there than that. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't think Andy Samberg's that funny. I think Andy Samberg he's about as good as the person who's next to him. So, if he's got Justin Timberlake next to him,
right,
things happen.
Okay.
But if he's by himself, it just doesn't do anything for me.
So, now I actually kind of thought at first, as Jimmy Fallon kind of got rolling on late night, he actually went out and got all his big celebrity friends, De Niro and Timberlake and all that guy. They kind of greased the wheel a little bit, to make sure people were watching. But I think Jimmy Fallon has found his voice and audience, and so he'll do fine.
Well, him and Justin Timberlake That's legendary.
Yeah,
right
they're
there.
BFS, man.
Best
They're out there
friends.
taking selfies and stuff, and they're they're quite the duo.
In fact, I think someone asked Jimmy Fallon if you could give any advice to Seth Meyers on how to make your show successful, what would it be? And he said, make friends with Justin Timberlake.
Right? No kidding. And
Man, we've talked about that guy a lot during this
you
show.
can't when we're talking arts and culture, we got to talk Justin Timberlake. He's probably running for president here if he doesn't overdose on bath salts.
Well, I think that before we wrap up, we need to at least explain that, politics and religion, while they might not be the most funny topics, are a part of culture.
Sure.
And this being an arts and culture podcast, there will occasionally come a time where those kinds of things come up on the program, especially during a week when not as many people are out eating faces or smoking bath salts or, skipping showers for 40 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, culture and art's right in the title, so we have to bring these things
We
up.
have to bring,
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. So with that said, as we wrap up the program 55 minutes in, Jason, who would you like to tip the cap to this week?
I want to tip my cap to Clint Eastwood. He actually saved a man's life this week. He was at a party to celebrate the kickoff of a golf tournament. He started choking. 83 years old. He picks him up, gives him the Heimlich, and all's good.
Go Clint Eastwood.
Nice. And when the guy, when his life had been saved, did Clint ask him, do you feel lucky?
He should have.
Right?
David, how about you? Who are you tipping the cap to today?
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tip the cap. I was kind of torn, but I'm going to tip the cap to the Coca-Cola company. I love that they put a commercial out with a very patriotic song, America, America, and not only that, they kind of had a little bit of a multicultural melding pot flair, and then they put it in other languages. But I love that when they're singing it, they said America in English, and then they said even God shed His grace on thee. You got to know that really, I love that, and I love that when they got kickback for it not being in English. Man, they're still running that commercial. I think that commercial was a beautiful rendition of a very patriotic song. I think it reflected the American spirit, and I'm going to tip the cap and drink an extra Coke Zero because of it.
And
Right
first commercial Coke's ran in a while because they stopped running commercials and were dedicating that budget to help, I think, tsunami victims.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I love on a cultural perspective that it started so much conversation. Not all of it was the most civil conversation, but ain't that America?
Right.
No, oh, definitely. Definitely. And I kind of, my wife who doesn't follow this stuff like, the rest of us, the commercial came on and so I threw it out there. I said, I think that commercial is beautiful. And she goes, I do too. And some people just need something to hate.
Chill out. Yeah.
And so I love the commercial.
Well, I would like to go ahead and tip the cap this week to rest in peace Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
He was a fantastic actor. I mean, the Hunger Games movies are kind of a pop culture thing. He was great in them, but Doubt was fantastic. He played Truman Capote in Capote like nobody could have. He was just a really good actor. And then
Was he in
Along Came
Moneyball?
Polly with he was in Moneyball.
Love
Yep.
that movie.
And Along Came Polly with Ben Stiller. He played an idiot, and he didn't take himself too seriously.
Great.
But when he did take himself seriously, he could be any actor in the room.
Well,
And
talented
he was just
man.
fantastic. So, unfortunately, it seems like he struggled with addiction, and it eventually got the best of him. But for the career that he had, I would like to tip the cap to Philip Seymour Hoffman.
all right, good
And
job.
aside from that, guys, episode 5 is over of the Culture and Arts Podcast. We hope you enjoyed yourself, and we will see you next week. If you do have any suggestions about topics or potential articles that we could discuss on the program, please send us at the Cap Podcast or Cap Podcast on Twitter your suggestions, and we would be happy to discuss them next week.